This is David Finzer broadcasting for the next 2 hours from the Gibraltar of the Balkans, the historic city of Novi Sad, along the banks of the beautiful Danube River here in Serbia. You can join our conversation by calling toll-free in the U.S. and Canada at 1-855-655-2121 or by Skype at ORN Live. Or, for the terminally timid, you can email me at david@truthandliesradio.com or post a message on the Truth and Lies Radio Show Facebook page. Remember, Overseas Radio Network's archives are available on overseasradio.com's website 24/7, so you can listen to all the good shows of the network whenever it's convenient for you. According to the big clock on the truthandliesradio.com's FATCA, Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act page, your worldwide financial privacy, if you're an American citizen or resident, will expire in 206 days, 13 hours, 49 minutes, and 59 seconds. Well, you know it. I know it. People know it. Ron Paul knows it. I regretfully accept it, which is going to cost me a $20 bet with my CFO. But the forces of evil have won again, and it looks Mitt Romney's going to be the Republican presidential nominee in 2012. That doesn't mean that the Texas congressman's ending his campaign. Far from it. In the email to his supporters, Paul acknowledged that he was far short of the numbers needed to capture the GOP nomination, but he said he had far exceeded expectations and would arrive at the National Convention in Tampa with far more delegates than the talking heads are now predicting, as much as 20% of the total. When all is said and done, we will likely have as many as 500 supporters as delegates on the convention floor, said a libertarian lawmaker from Lake Jackson. That's just over 20%. And while this total is not enough to win the nomination, it puts us in a tremendous position to grow our movement and shape the future of the GOP. Paul noted that his campaign will send several hundred additional supporters to Tampa who, while bound to Romney, believe in our ideas of liberty, constitutional government, and a common-sense foreign policy. The Texan also tried to tamp down the enthusiasm that's led to confrontations at recent state conventions, most recently, of course, in Louisiana over the last weekend. Our delegates' presence must be felt both in Tampa and in the years to come, Paul said. Stand up for what we believe in, be respectful, and let the establishment know that we are the future of the party and of the country. Now, meanwhile, his son, Senator Rand Paul, Republican of Kentucky, has endorsed Mitt Romney's presidential bid, throwing his weight behind the presumptive nominee, even though his father is yet to fully terminate his White House bid. Rand Paul made the move in an appearance on Fox News Channel's Hannity. He said, well, you know, my first choice has always been my father. He's still my first pick. But now the nominating process is over. Tonight, I'm happy to announce I'm supporting Governor Romney. Very political, which I guess is smart, but makes me lose a little respect for Rand Paul, I must admit. In a statement, Romney said that he was honored to have received the endorsement of Paul, probably more like relieved beyond belief, a freshman lawmaker and a founding member of the Senate Tea Party caucus who is believed to be mulling his own future bid for national office. Senator Paul has been a leading voice in the effort to scale back the size and reach of government and promote liberty, Romney said. Over the past 3.5 years, President Obama has made the government more and more of a presence in our lives, and Americans can't afford 4 more years of the same failed policies. As president, I will reform the federal government, make it smaller, simpler, and smarter. Sounds like there may have been a conversation behind the scenes between the Paul family and Mr. Romney, because this is the first time I've heard him talking about the government being smaller, simpler, for sure. The endorsement does lend Romney further Tea Party backing as he solidifies his support amongst the GOP faithful. And as Paul's father technically remains a candidate in the White House race, although Romney has essentially clinched the 1,144 delegates, so my prediction was wrong, probably, necessary to win the nomination. It looks like the Paul campaign is still going to have an effect. I am convinced that, knowing the Republican Party as I do, there's been a tremendous amount of pressure brought to bear, and that there have been some agreements made to prevent a floor fight and to prevent from Ron Paul's name from being put in nomination. But I don't think it's going to go away. And if Rand Paul does not stick to his father's guns, and if Romney doesn't do a lot of convincing of a lot of people, I think that a lot of the people who are supporting Ron Paul are not going to vote for the Republican Party, but are going to leave the party and are going to vote for the Libertarian. I've been looking at Gary Johnson. I spent a lot of last week looking at Gary Johnson, and while he's a little too libertarian for me, he is well-spoken, has a great record as a governor, is a hell of a debater, in fact, and he could make a formidable opponent, especially in a close race between Mr. Obama and Mr. Romney. So it should be very interesting to see. My recommendation, frankly, is to throw your vote away, as they say, and don't vote for the Republicans. Punish them for what they've done. Punish them for nominating Romney. Punish them for the dirty tricks. Punish them for being the party of corporate welfare. Don't let them tell you, well, we're more conservative than the Democrats. That was like saying Hitler was more conservative than the communists. So what? He was still Hitler. The only reason the Republicans ever nominated Ronald Reagan was because in the 16 years between Barry Goldwater and Ronald Reagan, millions of Americans, myself included, always threw our votes away and voted for conservative and libertarian parties to send the message to the Republican Party that they better get back where they should be and be a conservative libertarian party, or we will let them go to hell. And I'd rather see Romney, I would rather see Obama in office when the economy goes down than the Republicans, and then wipe out the chances for a good Republican. This is David Finzer for Truth and Lies Radio on the Overseas Radio Network. We'll be back in 3.5 minutes. Don't go away. This is David Finzer for Truth and Lies Radio on the Overseas Radio Network. Liar, liar, facts on fire. Newsmax reported that in Obama's third debate with then GOP presidential nominee, the nutcase John McCain, the Democrat maintained that his only involvement with Acorn, and we're not talking about the things that fall out of the oak trees, came when he represented a group in a lawsuit over the National Voter Registration Act. Now, to try to be fair, which I always hate being, Wikipedia describes ACORN as the acronym for the Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now, as a collection of community-based organizations in the United States that advocated for low and moderate income families by working on neighborhood safety, voter registration, health care, affordable housing, and other social issues. In other words, it was a leftist front group. But the records show that Mr. Obama was actually a member of the far-left New Party and also signed a contract promising to support and associate himself with the new party while in office. Recently obtained evidence from the records of Illinois' ACORN office at the Wisconsin Historical Society provides a clear documentary trail that definitively establishes Obama's membership in the organization. Barack Obama, candidate for the state Senate in the 13th Legislative District, gave a statement to the membership and answered questions. He signed the new party candidate contract and requested an endorsement from the party. He also joined the new party. That was a quote. There was quoting minutes of a January 11th, 1996 meeting at the New Party Chicago's chapter. In addition, the publication reported that a roster of the Chicago chapter of the New Party from early 1977 still listed Obama as a member and referenced the January 11, 1996 joining date. Is there anything this man says that we can really believe? Does he, in fact, know the truth from a lie, or is the man playing President of the United States a sociopath? I'm beginning to wonder, because I'm afraid if he got out and swore that the sun would rise in the east tomorrow, that I might get up looking in the west. Anyway, it's just one more lie. But he doesn't understand basic concepts like it's the economy, stupid. Last week, Americans received more bad news on the country's economic performance. Gee, what a surprise. According to the latest Labor Department jobs report, the economy created only 69,000 net jobs in May, many of which are short-term summer jobs, and the unemployment rate increased to 8.2%. To make things even worse, it was also reported that employers created 49,000 fewer jobs than originally estimated. Put it all together, and it's pretty clear that the U.S. economy is running on momentum and rapidly approaching stall speed. If Washington doesn't act, things could get much worse, not better. That's because of the massive $494 billion tax increase, which is going to hit us all smack in the face on January 1st, 2013. We may even wish that the Mayans are right and the world ends before then, because it's going to get ugly. That date has been dubbed as Taxmageddon. The tax hike will be the result of the expiration of the 2001 and 2003 tax cuts, the termination of other tax policies, the imposition of new taxes such as those under Obamacare. Economists say the Taxmageddon will spell further doom for the U.S. economy. And this week, even former absolute liar President Bill Clinton agreed that Washington should temporarily extend the 2001 and 2003 tax cuts. Now, I noted today that he sort of backed down from anything that could be considered disagreeing with His Royal Highness Mr. Obama, but nevertheless, Clinton did say it, and we don't have to define what is means. House Speaker John Boehner said the House will vote on extending the tax policies before the November election, but Mr. Obama and his capo di tutti capi in the Senate, Harry Reid, a Democrat from Nevada, have so far ignored the impending crisis. Of course, the economy's in limbo, waiting for Taxmageddon to strike. On top of this incredibly huge tax burden, America is wallowing towards the European-style spending and debt crisis. The well-respected Heritage Foundation spokesman Allison Fraser explains, quote, "The sad fact is that the U.S. federal debt will soon reach economically damaging levels, and spending will be the driver of that explosion. The three major entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, will accelerate the spending growth in the future due to demographic changes and rising healthcare costs. In 2012, they comprised approximately 45% of total spending, or 10% of GDP. By 2035, they will reach approximately 16.5% of GDP. Left alone, they will devour all tax revenues by 2045, assuming the historical level of taxation." So, what's Washington doing about it? Right-thinking senators and representatives have put forward serious proposals to tackle the budget and spending crisis, chief among them being Senator Mike Lee from Utah, which appear to be based on the Heritage Foundation's Saving the American Dream plan. And the Heritage does a lot of good work. I don't agree with everything they do, but they're very good economically. Though the House has passed a budget, the Senate still hasn't passed one in more than 100 days. And as for the president's plan, His own Senate, controlled by his own party, voted it down 99-0. How's that for a poke in the eye with a sharp stick? The dysfunction in the Senate has reached a new low under Harry Reid, who is using tactics to rule with tyranny, restricting the senators' rights to participate in debate and offer amendments, which is unprecedented in the history of the United States. The Senate is supposed to be the deliberative body that keeps the House from going off the edge. Stripping senators of the right to bring up issues up for debate in the form of amendments has dramatically affected the national debate from entitlement reform to gun rights. If senators are not allowed to offer amendments to bills, those issues are often never debated by the American people. When members choose to filibuster bills to open legislation to a free amendment process, they're demonized by the Democratic leadership and by the whole panoply of left-wing morons across the country. So while unemployed Americans suffer record joblessness, as families and businesses brace themselves for a massive tax increase as the United States heads toward an economic meltdown, Washington seems incapable or unwilling to take action to make anything better. There are leaders in our nation's capital who propose the kind of policies needed to set America on the right economic track, yet the Democrats headed by Harry Reid prefer gridlock to action. Sadly, the business-as-usual gridlock in Washington is the mirror opposite of the actions taken in, for example, Wisconsin State House, where the governor turned a multi-billion-dollar deficit into a positive bank balance, and the American people are all paying the price for Harry Reid and a Barack Obama's desire to control everything. Now we've got a break for the news and a word from our sponsors, but we'll be back in 3 minutes or so please don't go away. This is David Finzer for Truth and Lies Radio on the Overseas Radio Network.